why would we start doing something that doesn't make us happy, as in making the type of beat that we don't actually enjoy making just to make money? It's like the same thing as working a job we don't like.
Like I said, it's not really necessarily like a trap or old school or boom bap or soulful whatever argument. It's more of a like, make the music that is most genuine to you.
Let's be honest, you're not gonna find these videos anywhere else. Why? Because I make them. So it would really help me out if you subscribe. If you've already subscribed, what also really helps is if you like the video and leave a comment. It's hard in the era of clickbait videos on YouTube and negativity in the producer community, and I appreciate your support. Thank you so much. And I know you recently tweeted something to the effect of, just make the kind of music you want and the rest is gonna fall into place. And was that kind of the driving force that kept you going? And then, and what kind of turned things around for you at that point as you were fighting that urge to just say, I gotta make, I don't know, trendy sounding trap beats?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'll say like, I'm not perfect with this. I love like music in general. So this isn't really like a knock on trap beats, because I've made plenty of trap beats. If you go on my channel, there's plenty of trap beats up there. But I think for me, it was really just more of thinking of like a long-term picture, like what is the kind of music that I want to like people to know me as, like what how do I want people to identify me? And I remember speaking on that, I had made like a Gucci Mane type beat on YouTube, and it was pretty generic, but it like blew up. And by blew up, I mean it got like 100,000 views, and this was in like 2016, I think, maybe. So at the time, it was a lot for me, and I just remember being like, "Oh, that's kind of cool," but like, I didn't have that like sense of like pride over like, "Yo, that's cool," and also I'm really proud of like this song because like I feel like it's really like reflects me as a person. And so that was like kind of one of those moments where that that was kind of exemplified. But like I said, it's not really necessarily like a trap or old school or boom bap or soulful whatever argument. It's more of a like, make the music that is most genuine to you and like what you like to listen to and how you feel as a person. And maybe for you, some days it's trap, only trap. Maybe for you, you're all over the place. Like I know a lot of producers that make a lot of different style of beats and they're all heat. So and like I make trap beats too. I don't release all of them, but I make a lot of different styles, because like at the end of the day, we're producers. We get inspired, we hear stuff, and we're just like, yo, I want to let's make something like this. So I guess that's the message. Just like make what you feel and make what's most genuine to you, and don't feel like you have to like, I guess, compromise your sound either way, whether it's trap or boom bap or old school or pop or reggae, like at all,
Yeah, I feel like you've already lost if you're, because to me, tell me if you feel this way, the whole point of doing this, taking the risk to just make music for a living with everyone calling you crazy, is to be happier and freer. So if we're in this space now where we're fighting and forming habits and working ourselves to the bone just for that freedom and that happiness, why would we start doing something that doesn't make us happy, as in making the type of beat that we don't actually enjoy making just to make money? It's like the same thing as working a job we don't like.
Facts, 100%. It's the same thing. It's the same thing as working a 9-to-5. If you don't like the music you're making, you're gonna burn out too. Like, I mean, how many type beat, whatever that word means, how many producers are there on YouTube that just stop uploading? They burn out for whatever reason. I mean, there's a whole like range of reasons why, but like people burn out. People lose that fire and that energy. So I know for me, like it was just like, if I make what I like, like, I don't really care if I make a dollar or not. I mean, yeah, like obviously we all want to do this for a living, but at the end of the day, like if I was the last person on earth, I would probably still like work on music or be making, what I make. Um, and that's what I think has given me like that drive to just keep going. So I think that's super important for everybody.
So when did you actually start selling beats and making a real effort to do that?
So I guess it would have been, I had graduated college. I had some stuff up on YouTube around 2015, videos here and there. I still wasn't good though. And there wasn't like the tutorials we have now. Like it was, I mean, it was, there were people starting to make tutorials, but still like, and I was using Ableton and I honestly wasn't good enough yet. And I was like, why aren't my beats selling? Blah, 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 blah. So I was working like 3 different jobs trying to figure out, how to make money, and still like build this business. And then I was working a landscaping job that I hated. And I remember somebody contacted me. And this was like early 2016, I would say late 2015, early 16. Somebody contacted me to buy the exclusive rights to a beat. And I forget what the number was, but I made that week off of that exclusive sale more than I made from like the 3 part-time jobs that I was working. And so when that happened, I was like, yo, okay, I'm actually going to take this seriously and try to figure out, how to really do this. Cause, I was working 50, 60-hour weeks and just miserable and still trying to do music too. So that would have been late 2015, early 2016.
How long did it take, would you say, from when you started pursuing beat selling more seriously to the point where you could quit all those regular jobs to make music full time?
It was a process. Like I would see my monthly increase and then be like, okay, I'm gonna stop taking hours at that job, and then I'm gonna stop working that job. And it kind of just like, it was more of a process. And then eventually I had like one part-time job where I was working at a gym, and then I would work half time in the morning on beats. So that whole process was really, I guess, 2.5 years of like, I want to sell beats full time. Let me put all of that into it. But, like there's still like the 3 years before that of like just figuring out how to even make good beats. So I guess the long term would be like 5.5 years, I guess.
Okay. I definitely wanted to, because you've said this twice already, the term good beats. I want to pick up on that soon. So just mentally prepare yourself for that. But
I got you.
Here's a question from the chat that I think is actually pretty challenging. So I'm glad they're not asking me that question. Where is it at? Prod by Lethal says, what do all your best selling beats have in common?
Wow. I know you're probably going to say the same thing about this, Pain, but they just did really well. They did really well on YouTube, honestly. Like when the algorithm blows up your beat, it's like, that beat sells more because you have 2 million views on that beat instead of 10,000, 15,000. So.
But do you think, I mean, when you listen to them, is there anything that catches you as unique, or I don't know, some commonality that they all have?
Probably like the melody, which is interesting, but I think it's really true. And it doesn't even doesn't even have to be super melodic, but like if the melody provides the right vibe. Like I've had beats that sold really well that I listened to later. I'm like, yo, the drums could be better, but like the melody or whatever, the vibe of the instruments lays a really good foundation for an MC. And so that kind of just guides the whole thing. Which is interesting because I never really thought of like melody as being the most important part, but I guess I'm more of like a drum guy, but yeah.
You're not hella late. You're a little late. We got the majority of it still left. Anyway, this was kind of this was a question I planned on asking anyway. It wasn't a vacation. Anyway, Stay Golden asked something similar, but I was planning on asking this question. So go back to when you're starting to quit your jobs and you're almost there. What kind of habits did you form in order to turn your love for music into an actual career? What kind of scheduling changes? What kind of psychological changes did you make?
I think the first was psychological. Like literally training my brain to believe that I could make money off of like something that I created and then put on the internet was pretty difficult for me at first. Just because I had a lot of people like around me, you know, I graduated from full-time university and everybody else is getting like, I had a business degree and everybody else is working like corporate jobs. And so like mentally that was pretty tough on me because like the friends are like, yo, what are you doing? You know, what's going on? I had a couple of friends that got it, but just like training my mentals to be like, no, this is possible. You can do this. And then finding a couple of people that were in a position that I wanted to be in and just like trying to, in a way, like mentally surround myself with them, if you will, or like always check in on their content and be like, okay, that person's doing it. So if they did it, I can do it. And I remember like always telling myself, like, if there are people out there that are doing this full time and making a living from this, then I can too. It might take longer, it might look differently, but it can be done. And then as far as like schedule, for like actual creativity and all of that, one of the best things I did was I committed to working on music every single day. And at that time, I think it was like 2016, I said, okay, I'm going to upload a beat to my YouTube channel every day and I'm going to use it like kind of like practice because I knew I wanted to get better. And I was just like, if I just make beats every day and then kind of give myself that deadline of uploading every day, then, you know, eventually I'm going to get a lot better at making beats and like people will be able to like follow this journey with me. So that looking back on it, I don't know if I necessarily recommend like the upload every single day. But if you're in a place where you're like really don't like the situation that you're in and you really want to like improve and you hate your job or whatever it is, like you kind of go into a mental place where you're like, I'm willing to, you know, sacrifice sleep or maybe even health at times to like improve my current situation. It's definitely not good for longevity, but like a year or two of that definitely can help. So it's really unique to every person, but.
Yeah, I think it's really powerful to have models, you know, people that are actually, for me at least, it was one of the most powerful things just because I was so skeptical. I don't know if you were when you first started, you know, are people actually making a living doing that? You know, especially when you look at the price points.
Yep.
$24.99. Nah, you can't make a living off that until I met the people that were doing it and they actually showed it to me.
Honestly, I kind of remember that. I remember that transition for you because I was watching some of your content.
Yeah.
And I remember that transition and like seeing it in some of your content. I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah, I owed a lot of people a lot of apologies because I was in that space where those were the conversations I was having. anti $20 beat leases or anti, and now I'm doing stuff that the 10 years ago version of me would be angry at, and it's pointless. And I see that attitude in a lot of other producers. So it kind of is like, it's something that I would like to talk people out of, but at the same time, it's a choice everyone has to make. We've even seen it in this chat or like Twitter conversations. It pops up all the time where people actually, will deny the reality that we're all living. Whether it's, hey, I'm not making trap beats and I'm making a living. No, you're not. No, you're not. To, oh, a lot of us are making a living licensing beats. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're sucking somebody's dick. You're writing somebody. You're doing something out here that I will never do. The reason I'm not selling beats is because I'm not like you. I'm not selling out. And it's just, it's sad because we went through this. Both of us. I think me to a more extreme degree because I was so stubborn. But you're speaking to it just the same. I think almost all producers that at least started, a little earlier than the rest of the folks that are coming up now in a really healthy environment were resistant and skeptical. And so,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember I didn't want to list my beats as type beats because I was like, oh, that's weird. Yeah. And I remember like I was heavy listening to Knowledge in like 2015, and he was just uploading beat tapes to Bandcamp. He still does, like, ridiculous. That man is insane. But I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do what he does. I'm just gonna upload these beat tapes on Bandcamp, and then I'm not doing this type beat, whatever. And then I found out that Joey Badass found the beat for Christ Conscious, which when it came out blew my mind, and it was like still is one of my favorite beats I've ever heard. I found out that he found that on YouTube, and I was like, that changed everything for me. I was like, oh, okay, it just completely changed my mind on a lot of that. So,
and let me say too. So Joey Badass' new single just dropped today. It's his first single in a long time. I co-produced it. This all. Thank you. I'm obviously excited about it on a personal level, but this is the second record that I co-produced for Joey Badass, and it was not all through, because I had a relationship with Static Selector before I got into type beats. And granted, Static has a BeatStars account too, but we had to all just kind of reconnect with each other via Dream Life, who I met through BeatStars. So isn't it crazy? And what you just said tied it all together, where it was like, maybe we had an attitude at the beginning where we wanted a certain trajectory. We wanted to make classic records with legitimate artists. We wanted to get placements. We wanted to leave a legacy. And we resisted the very vehicle, which is, selling beats online and BeatStars and YouTube, that would get us there. Because now that's where I don't want to say the majority of placements are coming from, but quite a few. The scales are really starting to tip.
Facts. I mean, yeah, that's a gem right there. I think it comes down to, like, you have to decide for yourself what you want and what that looks like for you, and realize, like, not everybody's journey is your journey. And, like, if you want to be the guy that's strictly placements and you don't want to sell type beats, whatever that term even means, then, you're probably going to have, well, I don't want to give like a superlative, but you're probably going to have to struggle for a little bit longer and probably have to work a job maybe for a long time. I mean, I don't really know, because I'm not in the industry like that. But I mean, how many times do you hear people complain about not getting paid?
Every damn day. Couple times a day.
So you and I, we're getting PayPal notifications, and, like, you know, if you don't get paid from a placement, like, okay, that kind of sucks, but also it's like, it's not the end of the world, right?
No, I'm glad you said that too, because that's another thing that I experienced. And I know I'm not the only one because I have these conversations with other producers that are selling online, and they get play. Like all of us are getting placements now, and some of us were getting them before. But you're right. I mean, I think the power to what's the, it's like a business um, idiom that kind of just is floating around. I don't know who to credit, but it applies to just anything, relationships, whatever. And it's something that goes like, the person who has the power to walk away from the negotiation table has all the power in the negotiation, something like that. So, and I noticed that because I'm not going to say what it was, but we had a placement coming in and the initial terms were so terrible that all of us were willing to walk away. And we just said, we're not going to take this. And the next offer was exactly what we wanted, but we were absolutely willing to walk away. And I know me personally, like with all the very first placements I got, I wanted them so bad. I needed them because I needed the money and I needed the validation, that I ended up taking pretty crummy advances. And I didn't really, I played into the whole sense of urgency. Like, if you don't agree to this within the next 24 hours, we're going to give the placement to somebody else, which was a lie, you know? And had I just been like, okay, cool, give it to someone else, then I would have probably gotten a much fairer situation. So what a lesson, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just goes to show, like, well, it's interesting you say that because I wonder if, like, a lot of the sense of, like, the shady stuff that we hear about going on, um, it always seems to be a money thing. And it's like, if you have a level of financial stability or financial freedom, if you will, like, I think that provides a long-term situation where you can, like you said, like, make good business deals, but also treat everyone fairly. You're not going to be trying to finesse somebody because, like, if you have multiple streams of income, like, you're more free to, like, not only create the music you want to create, work with who you want to work with, but also, like, negotiate for what's fair for all parties. So I don't know. I, I think it's super dope that producers are making money through multiple streams of income, not just beat leases, sample packs, drum kits, all of that. I mean, streaming. How many people just have they put their beats on beat tapes and they're just on Spotify, you know?
Yeah, matter of fact, let's jump into that because you've been doing that for a while. You have an album called 25 that you dropped in 2018. I don't know if that was your first instrumental album, but it was premiered on a pretty big YouTube channel back then. And now you have a new one out. And I forget the name of it, but the link is in your Instagram bio. Tell me about dropping projects.
Yeah, well, I kind of alluded to it earlier, but when I started, like, that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to, like, find a way to make instrumental albums and then make money off of it. But then I was like, well, I want to do music full time. So what if I try to sell beats and then also make beat tapes? And then, you know, it just kept kind of growing. So I've always been kind of making beat tapes. 25 came about, just me. It was like my 25th birthday was coming up, and I was like, I have all these beats that I have that are more like, you can kind of tell the difference between, like, oh, I hear an artist on this, or like, oh, this is kind of more of a, like, just a beat tape. It's a minute long or a minute 30 seconds long, and so I had a bunch of that kind of stuff that I was working on. I was like, I should put it into a beat tape and put it out on my birthday. And going back to talking about relationships, my guy Cisco, who runs Steezy as Fuck, the YouTube channel, we linked up in LA, and built a relationship over, I guess since 2018. So I released that album. He put it up on his YouTube. I released another album that he shared on his YouTube. And then I released 2 albums, Palm Canyon Drive and my most recent Evening Hughes, as a part, like in partnership with him and another label that I've been working with since like 2015, 9 to 5. And so those 2 projects were released through those guys, and they were super helpful with everything. I mean, it's pretty much a dream scenario as far as like being an independent like artist, if you will. You know, just make the beats, structure the album, and then give it to them. They handle everything else. So, and there's a fair split for everyone involved, and so that's been super beneficial for, you know, for streams and just kind of growing my Spotify platform as well. But you know, there's multiple ways that you can diversify your income. You know, I'm just trying. I see it as like hedging yourself against the algorithm, right? It's like you never know when YouTube's going to be like, we won't show this to people.
Yeah, for me, it's usually. What wisdom can you share with the rest of us about making your beat tape or your instrumental project successful after so many years of doing that?
I think the number one thing that I'm still learning about, but you have to view yourself as an artist instead of like a beat maker. You have to like put together like a package, especially at the beginning. So like when I first got my first 25, when I got that shared, I put it together, like wrote a little bio for myself, put the album artwork in there, put all of the files in there ready to go. Like Steezy didn't even have to like make the YouTube video. I had a full continuous mix of there that I sent him directly in like the first email, introduce myself, just kind of like, you know, artists managers do for them. And so that's super beneficial. And then also just like follow up is key. Cause, you know, a lot of these people like have a lot of stuff coming in, and I mean, you don't want to be annoying, but if you can follow up like once every couple of weeks, hey, did you have a chance to check this out? I think that's super beneficial because people don't do that.
So throughout this whole journey of Homage as a solo artist, you've been self-managed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, that's a lot of freaking work. I know a lot of people were asking questions about.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep up with these.
Well, I'll actually pin them. But people were asking questions about your work ethic, and I definitely want to get into. I have a ton of questions about that, but let's talk numbers a little bit. You have 170,000 YouTube subscribers on your main channel. We're going to talk about the other channels. Millions of BeatStars plays. I think almost 3 million. Clearly, people like your beats. How and I said I would ask this. What to you makes a good beat?
I think there's levels to this. When you first start, and I know that there's a lot of people in the chat that are kind of newer to making music, so or that will watch this. So I want to like touch on that. When you first start, you think everything is super fire, and then like the better you get, you realize like you're not good at all. And it's like the old saying, like the more you know, the more you realize that you don't know. It's like it's the same with making music. It's like the more you dig into like producers that are like well revered throughout the history of not even hip hop but just music, you realize, oh wow, like I am just like I'm on level 1 and you know Primo's on level 10 and he started, you know, however many years ago. So a good beat at the beginning to me was like, okay, if a Dilla beat is a 10 and I'm starting at 1, if I make like a 3 or a 4, that's probably a good beat, because like I can't really keep up with that right now. I'm still at the beginning. And so like for me, I think a thing that I did a lot was I would like make a beat, finish it, listen to my beat, put it in a playlist with like other beats that, you know, that I really, really like, I've liked forever. And then kind of like put my beat back in that playlist. And if my beat came on and I was like, oh gosh, what is this? Like turn this off. It doesn't sound right. Then I was like, okay, that's not a good beat, you know? But like I said, there's levels to it. When you first start, you can't expect yourself to compare to like your inspirations. So, you know, maybe if you're like 70% there, then that's a good beat. Now I'm probably a lot more selective. Now I think one thing that I do is I try to like let 24 hours pass before um, even like finishing a beat. Like I'll make it and I'll do everything that I need to do in that moment. Like I'll create it, you know, mix it, whatever, export it, put it into a folder. Like I have folders on my computer of every day of like beat ideas that I made. And then I'll go back and listen to it with fresh ears, you know, a day later, 2 days later. And a lot of times you forget even what it sounds like. And when you forget, I think, who was it? I think T Minus was talking about this on one of his Twitch streams. He was like, when you forget how a beat sounds, then when you hear it, you're hearing it as like as the listener would hear it. And so if you're hearing it as the listener would hear it and you're like, oh, this is good, like I really like this, then that's when you know, like for me, that's the beat that I need to finish.
Oh, and happy belated birthday to T Minus too. Shout out to him.
Shout out.
That is a good practice. Here's an even harder question to follow that up. How do you know when a beat is finished?
Oh man, I want to ask you this question.
Hey, I'm the interviewer here.
I know, right?
I'm just gonna steal your answer and give it right back
I
to
know,
you. Probably.
right? No, I was gonna say because your sample packs are fire. I use those all the time, so it's like,
Oh, thank you. I have no idea what I'm doing, by the way.
we're just experimenting, but yeah, I mean, I think it's a feeling, right? Like it's just a feeling. I think you probably do this with your sample packs, but I think you like try to add a bunch of stuff at the beginning. For me, like I try to add a bunch of stuff and like build up a loop or whatever. And I'm like adding. And then when I listen to it with fresh ears, I'm like, I need to strip this way down. And then you eventually get to like, for me, I get like, I don't know, sometimes it's 4 tracks, sometimes it's 8 tracks, but you end up cutting out a lot of, or at least I do, I end up cutting out a lot of stuff and it sounds better. And like I feel like when there's nothing left to take out, then it's like, okay, it's done, or at least it's like 70% done. Because at the end of the day, like artists are artists. Like the beat you upload to your store isn't it's not a final product technically. Like an artist is going to take it and do their thing. So you don't want the beat to be so full that they can't do anything, right? Or maybe they even go back and they buy the stems and they restructure it. Maybe they get their you know, they get their friend to come in and play saxophone over one part. Like you have to be like more not so judgmental with yourself on that stuff. I'm pretty hard on myself, so
Yeah. And I think a lot of us are. I think the people that aren't, at least early on, end up making a lot of mistakes, but there's got to be a balance. Anyway, I think it's interesting that you are speaking on a more subtractive approach to finishing a beat rather than additive. I think tell me how you feel. I feel like a lot of producers take an additive approach where they feel as though adding a lot will get them closer to that finish line, whereas you're saying add a lot and then subtract your way to the finish line.
yeah, that was really really well said. I think you said it better than me, so I'm gonna take that from you.
Yeah, you can have it. I think that's it's yours anyway. I think that's really interesting, just because, and I think it's a beginner kind of mindset where the fear is that, like you said, and I think this is also a brilliant thing to say. The beats really are, even if it's a finished beat, it's still an unfinished song. So that space in there, that's what the artist needs. That's where they fit. And a lot of us don't have the experience to anticipate an artist filling that space. So we just think, oh God, space, we have to fill it. As the producer, I have to fill every frequency. And that's not the case.
Thanks. Yeah, I want to shout out to my homie Malls Monday. Really dope artist. I learned a lot from working with him. Just sending files back and forth, sending beats to him. I had one track that I worked on with him. It's called Young King, featuring Mick Jenkins, and the song is incredible. Probably one of my most favorite songs that I worked on. And I first worked on that beat with him because he's a producer as well. Like, he'll send me loops and be like, hey, can you do this or can you do that? And I worked on that beat with him, and then another producer got involved, and we worked on it for like 3 months. I think I made like 20 different versions. There were like 20 different versions of that song. And the final product that came out was like my, I guess, most stripped down version of, like, because I worked on the drums a little bit and then I worked on the bass line. And like the final one that we're like, yo, this is the one, was like kind of my most stripped down version of what I had worked on. So I learned a lot from that specific process.
That, I think that's so hard. That's so much more challenging than just adding a million different counter melodies over a beat. You know, because it's like with all things in life, communication, for example, and to me, music is just communication. Saying less, but expressing exactly what you want to express is way more difficult than just rambling on and on.
Thanks.
And with production, it's the same. So let's switch gears and put you back in the hot seat. You released 364 finished beats in 2021. How did you train yourself to make and finish a beat every single day? Because I know you made way more than 364 beats that year.
Yeah. I think first, time, like literally just time spent. It's a practice. And I think a lot of people, especially newer producers, I did this for like 5 years. Like, you sit down and you think like, I have to make the best beat ever today. And then you pick a snare and you're like, oh, that snare sounds trash, delete it. Or you pick a hi-hat and you're like, oh, it doesn't sound right, or it doesn't sound good enough. And you start judging yourself. And I know, like, I do that all the time. I still have to work on this, but it's like we judge ourselves during the creative process, not like the finalized process, but like I end up judging myself. And it's like, the more I was just like, hey, I'm just going to make something. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just going to pick some random, chops, samples, loops, whatever, drum breaks. I'm going to try to chop this up. I'm going to try to use a new snare, whatever it is. Like, I'm just experimenting. And once you get into like that flow, if you will, where you're like not judging yourself, you're just kind of like doing stuff, then that's when, for me, I'm able to just like keep it moving. Some days it's really hard. Some days it's really easy. I know we've all experienced that before, but like, there's days where I make one loop in like 10 minutes. I'm like, that's trash, but I still export it. And I'm like, that sucks. I hated that, but I made it. And I think that's the thing that maybe some people get hung up on, is like, oh, I don't want to make something trash. Yeah. It's like, no. When you make something trash, like, that's when you learn and that's when you get better.
I personally agree with that. And people were shocked that I made a YouTube video where I said, look, the most valuable thing that I did for myself was force myself to finish every beat. And they're like, well, what about the trash beats? Quality over quantity always. And I'm like, I disagree. And everyone can walk their own path. But I disagree because, like you said, if I finish all my beats, right, even if they're trash, one, I don't know what a trash beat is. Do you ever have it where a beat that you hate becomes someone else's favorite track?
All the time.
Yeah. So like we don't know shit. Like as much as we know, like you said, the more we think we know, or the more we know, the more we realize we don't know. So same thing. And then like number two, even if I make a beat that I don't like, now I know what not to do. So I just learned something from that. It's not wasted time. Yeah. And like maybe we should just stop calling our beats trash. Maybe that's that's kind of
right. Like I don't think Kanye calls his beats trash. So
yeah, I don't think Nas calls his beat. Well, Nas probably doesn't make beats, but the point is, whatever Nas says goes. Let's talk upload schedule though, since we're talking about your crazy work ethic. How often do you upload beats to BeatStars? And then related to that, how often do you upload beats to YouTube?
Depends on when you ask me, like what time of the year. I mean, I try to stay consistent. Like with my main channel, I try to upload 3 times per week on my main channel, and then like 3 to 4 on my second channel. But like in December, I got Corona pretty bad, and I was like laying around for 10 days. And after that, all I wanted to do was like once I got over the sleepiness or whatever, I was like, all I want to do is make beats. And I think I uploaded like every single day for like 30 days or something like that on both channels, which is, looking back, was kind of stupid because like I could have just saved those beats to like space out more. But I mean, at that time I was like, I haven't done anything in 10 days. I was sick. Like I just want to work on music. And so that's kind of a long answer, but.
Okay, so then the follow-up to that is, how the hell are you making so many beats? I feel like that's just a more forceful version of my question, but
I mean, honestly, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I buy Sample Lab packs. Like,
thank you.
I buy packs from Drumboker. I buy packs from like sample makers that I find. Like, when I started making beats, I was, and I still like, I sample all the time. And so it's like, yeah, some people might say that's easier. At the end of the day, that's what I like to do. And it just goes back to like knowing yourself and knowing the sound that you want to make. And if I had to sit down and I was like giving myself rules where I'm going to compose every single sound that I make in this beat every single day, at first I might like slow down, but I also think it's stupid to put limits on yourself when it comes to creating. So I wouldn't advise that, like the people like, oh, I didn't use any samples on this, like whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, that's another conversation we can
right.
on. Let me see. I have more questions, but we're running out of time.
Okay.
So, yeah, you mentioned your second channel. You recently started a third YouTube channel. Actually, what was the?
Did I?
Well, it says you have 3 different channels when I go to your YouTube page. So let's focus on the second.
Oh, right. Yeah, the second one.
Okay, so then what was the thought process behind having multiple YouTube channels?
So it was in March 2020, like coronavirus pandemic had just hit. And I was like, I wasn't happy with like the results I was seeing on my main channel. And I was like, just kind of like researching not what other producers were doing, but like what other YouTubers do. And I noticed like pretty much every big YouTuber has a second channel where they do different stuff. And a lot of people were saying like, if you gone are the days of like one channel where every single video, like you can just post on there whatever you want and people will like it. Like you really need to niche down on your content that you're putting on your channel. And so I was like, all right, well, I'm making all of these like really grimy, like sometimes just looping up samples, Mad Lib style, like, heavy Alchemist Griselda inspired beats that I don't really feel like fit on my main channel. It's a completely different vibe. It's dark. It's like, way slower tempo. It's not like the chill vibe that people are used to seeing on my channel. So like, why don't I just start a second channel as an experiment? And I'm going to call it the Hidden Gems, and I'm not going to promote it for a year. And I'm just going to put these beats up there and use the keywords, like Griselda, Benny the Butcher, West Side Gun, Conway, all of that. And I'm going to see if people find them, if it catches on. And, here we are 2 years later, exactly almost. And, that channel is thriving. So it was a really interesting experience because like I said, I didn't promote it on my main channel. So I was just like, if people find these, dope. I don't really care if people like these or not. I'm just going to make like some like weird stuff that I think is like not the same as would go on my main channel. And people found it. So they're like, these beats are better than your other beats. Like, okay.
So what did you learn from that? Because I'm trying out the same things, but I'm not on year 2. I'm on like month 6 or maybe even lower than that. And it's an interesting experiment. But what did you learn from that experiment? I mean, in terms of SEO, in terms of a lot of producers wonder if YouTube prioritizes newer channels.
So the first thing that I want to make very clear is going into this, I wanted this to be like hidden beats. So I wanted to like mentally, as far as the product rollout, I was kind of taking, I guess, more of an Apple approach or something. Like Apple products never go on sale. They're higher priced than their competition, but people love them, right? And so I was kind of thinking, what if I just charge more for these beats? I don't promote them heavily. I don't do like sales on these beats, and I don't allow people to use them for free. And so I started I put my tag in it pretty often, like in the middle of the beat. And I said, you can't use these for free. If you use these, I'm going to copyright strike you, which is without purchasing a lease. And made it very clear, which is very different than my main channel, where it's just like pretty much do what you want as far as nonprofit goes. And I was like, the main thing here is I'm thinking about the type of person that's going to be buying these beats. I'm thinking about somebody that's very serious about their craft, that's like knows who they are as a rapper, who has a very specific sound that they're going for. And once they find that sound, they're willing to pay a premium, if you will.
Yeah, the Kanye approach. The sum total of all of that YouTube experience, what have you found that's worked for you in terms of, I don't know, upload days of the week, times of the week, titles, the format of that, thumbnails and the colors, that kind of thing?
So first of all, every single beat fits in with the genre. I never, like on that channel, you'll never hear something that doesn't sound similar or close to the other beats. And that was very intentional on my part. I was like, people are going to this channel for raw, darker, or soulful, chopped hip hop beats that sound pretty dusty, maybe sound like they came from, maybe like from the 90s with a mix of a new school, but very niche in that. And along with that, I wanted the artwork to really like capture that essence as well. And if you go on my channel, like you can see, I spent a lot of time actually like learning a little bit about graphic design to make like the colors pop and kind of have like a real, like, you look on the channel, it's like orange and red and yellow is kind of like the color scheme. So that's been super helpful too, because it really pops out when you see it, and it, the whole package matches, right? Like dark, grimy sounding, dark, grimy picture, premium price, and you can't use this for free. And like that, in my mind, I'm like, that's the up and coming rapper in that lane.
So this is all very intentional, and I'm wondering earlier, and I wish I had picked up on this sooner. You mentioned that you did go to school for marketing or for business, sorry.
Business.
Did you learn marketing? Are you applying that to your online beat selling?
I mean, not from school, no. No, it's just like reading. I read a lot of business books and I've read, you know, I think one book that stuck out to me was, well, I read a lot of Seth Godin. So he has like 3 or 4 like incredible books on marketing that really, really helped shape my approach with just business in general. But yeah, as far as like upload schedule on that channel as well, like I said, I always was making sure I did 4 beats a week. But when I first started it, like the first 4 months, I think I uploaded every day just because like I wanted YouTube to get to know what my channel was about. And it took like 6 to 8 months to even like make one sale on that channel. But then once YouTube kind of figured out like what my channel was about or whatever, because I was using the same tags over and over, then, you know, once you get a little bit of momentum, it really starts snowballing from there.
Got it. So let's end on that, but I do want to ask you and put you on the spot if you'd be willing. I have more questions, more people in the chat are demanding a part 2. Is that something, you know, maybe like later in the year we could do?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Here. Verbal commitment. So how
Shout
can people follow
in
you? Yeah, it was an active chat. It was an active chat. I want to obviously respect your time. How do people find you online? How do people follow you and connect with you?
Yeah, I'm Instagram Homage Beats, Twitter Homage Beats, you know, YouTube Homage Beats, and then my second channel is Hidden Gems. Homage is Hidden Gems. Spotify, Apple Music, all of that is just Homage.